I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And today we're going to be talking about, was my ex just using me? Yes. They wanted my Star Wars collection. They wanted to play with my Mario Kart Hot Wheels set.
I can assure you it wasn't that.
They loved the Rainbow Road play set.
It is pretty cool.
My daughter loves it. After a breakup, we often feel like maybe that person didn't really care about us, that things weren't really authentic or sincere, and we kind of question reality. And sometimes we can even just get to a point within ourselves where we just think that they used us, that they never really cared about us, that things with them weren't real, some kind of like hidden agenda, and you try and figure it out. So we're going to be talking about this today.
Exactly. And sometimes after a breakup, our brains can spiral and we can think about every possible scenario. And that can lead us to be a little bit paranoid sometimes. And we might think, did our ex have ulterior motives? And what we're going to talk about is really what's behind this fear, which is, did they really love me for who I am, or did they love me just for what I can provide?
Yeah.
And so some of these examples of what people can be used for include money, include sex.
That's a big one. Money and sex are probably the two biggest ones, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And I find that most men have that feeling of, oh, this woman's just using me for money.
And a lot of women feel like men are using them for sex,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And they're probably both right in a lot of cases, right?
In some cases.
Yeah.
And also status is another one. If somebody's really high profile, they might think, wow, this person's just around me because they like the attention that they get or the popularity that comes along dating me.
Yeah. Maybe they get into certain parties, or maybe they get to meet other people that they want to meet. Yeah, so stuff like that does happen. I've seen that.
Yeah. There's also validation. It feels good to be in a relationship, and it feels good for your partner to say, I love you, I care about you, you're a worthwhile person. There's also comfort and that emotional crutch. You know, you might think back, wow, my ex was during a really emotionally challenging time in their life. I wonder if they were just using me as somebody to talk to. Somebody
to get through a hard time.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that does happen. Yeah. And the validation, too. A lot of guys will want to be with an attractive woman because they have low self-esteem. And it's not really about her as a person. It's, oh, if I'm with this person who's really pretty, now I must be attractive, too. I had a friend that would do that.
Yeah. The other things that can happen is also for company or for companionship, just having somebody around. And lastly, for assistance or service. If there's somebody who has a lot of children or has a very demanding job and finds it really challenging to keep up with all of these things, having an extra hand around the house can be really helpful. You might think, wow, did this person use me because of how much service I provided to their life?
Yeah. Yeah, and it hurts to feel like somebody's only in your life for those reasons, that they didn't really care about you. And you're just like an object.
Exactly. It's extremely dehumanizing, and it can feel degrading. Did they even see me really as a person, or did they see me as an object, something to serve their needs? And you also might think, would this person still love me regardless of what I offered? If I didn't offer what they needed, would I still be in their life? Would they still care?
It's a valid question. It's a valid thing to think about, you know? And you have to really think about that person and the entirety of the situation, you know? Things aren't always black and white. Like, it's not necessarily they only used you for this specific thing, but they may have appreciated that if you were a celebrity, they may have appreciated going to premieres and meeting famous people, but it may have not been the only reason. If you do well financially, they may have appreciated that you do well and can help support them, but it may have not been the only reason they're with you.
Exactly.
So it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
There's a lot of gray in this situation. And for most people, it probably is a combination of both. If you think back on your own past relationships, there probably are things that you enjoyed about your partner that they provided. And likewise, you probably were in service to your partner in a lot of ways because you loved and cared about them. And particularly with money, you see this. You see people from third world countries, impoverished countries, people who grew up in a lot of poverty. Is it wrong for them to want to be in a financially stable relationship? Is it wrong for them to want to be able to provide for their children and have another partner who is successful? No, if that's only what they seek and they're very goal directed, then that might be a little bit different. But we tend to think in a lot of gray, that there's room for both. There's room to both love a person, genuinely care for them, and also appreciate what comes along with that.
And I have seen certain areas of the world be more notorious about that than others, where they want to be with somebody who makes really good money and it's extremely important to them.
Exactly.
They've been traumatized.
Yeah. And they just want that sense of security.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, who can blame them?
Yeah, it's scary. Navigating the world is scary. And if you grew up dirt poor, couldn't even afford food, you're terrified of it going to happen again.
Right. So there are also some people who will genuinely use you and do see people as objects, and we also want to share this because that's the reality. There are people out there, specifically people with narcissistic personality disorder, people who use others to their own benefit. So we don't want to ignore that and pretend that it doesn't exist. We want to address it, and we do have tons of videos on narcissistic personality disorder in particular. There are other disorders that might cause people to view others as need-gratifying objects, to use the terminology.
Yeah, sure. And those are the most extreme. Not, they are probably, I would say under 10% of the population that have personality disorders. But yes, there are extreme people that will only see you as, what can you give me, right? And how can you benefit me? And they're just transactional. What do I get out of this? And ultimately, they use up their supply, right? And once they do, they discard you. They're cruel. They're cold, and they treat you like they never cared about you.
Exactly. And just to remind you again, this is a smaller percentage of the population. For most of you, this probably isn't the case.
Yeah.
And so we want to just give you some extra perspective with this video, have you reflect on your own relationships, have you reflect back on this previous one, and really think for yourself, okay, what are all the factors here? Was there also some genuine love and care, which most of the time we do think there is.
Yeah, I agree with that. But, there are some people that have not had their needs met at all. There's been a lot of neglect and abuse in their life, and they're desperate. They're starved for affection, starved for attention, and their self-esteem is absolutely horrible. People think that narcissists are maybe very confident, but it's the exact opposite. They're extremely insecure, and so they do all these behaviors to overcompensate for how horrible they feel inside. And so they will go to extreme lengths to get their needs met because they're so desperate.
Exactly. And we really want you guys to be aware of this, to have your eyes open to this. And like I mentioned before, we have tons and tons of videos on personality disorders. Margaret did a great one with narcissism, so please check that out if you're interested in learning more. We just want to increase your knowledge and awareness of mental health issues out there, and also have you have a little bit more perspective.
Yeah. There are some cases where you're in an extreme situation where you have just been used for money or some of the things that we talked about earlier. Most are not. Many are, there is like an appreciation. I appreciated this person's financial situation, and they appreciate these other things that you bring to the table, but that's not the only reason that they're with you.
Exactly.
But most of you were not just used for whatever it is that you're afraid of. So hopefully that will ease your anxiety. And of course, that's something we could talk about in a coaching call. If you want to get our help personally, you could just sign up on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. And of course, Coach Victoria is also available for Skype coaching.
I'm here if you need to talk.
Just click on her name on the top of the website. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.